What's up, everybody? It's your boy Chimpact bringing guys my game against Gubs. This was actually live recorded on stream, which was definitely an accident. I meant to click uh, regular recording, and I actually started streaming the game. And fortunately for me, Gubs wasn't watching, and the audio was also pretty bad. So even if he was watching, he wasn't gonna be able to tell what moves I was clicking. The mic for when I streamed, it was really low, and the game audio was really loud, so you couldn't really hear what I was saying. So that's why I'm post-comming this. So he's got Manectric, Lantern, Bronzong, Porygon, Mandibuzz, and Azumarill. And in my prep, you could see that I was really worried about the Garchomp. So I'm really glad that he brought Porygon Z over the Garchomp. I also do apologize for the quality of the capture card. It doesn't really look that smooth, and not really sure why that is the case. I'm gonna look into making it a little bit better. So I lead out with Tornado's T. It's going to be my go-to lead against pretty much everything. I can knock off the Bronzong. I can U-turn on the Manectric since I do outspeed pre-Mega. And he leads out Porygon. I can knock off if he specs. Then I'm going to be not worried about anything that he has at all because Tri-Attack specs does not OHKO me with adaptability. So he goes for the Thunderbolt, and I'm just going to U-turn out into my Steelix. Steelix can take a hit from his Manectric if it's above around 60% from a flamethrower. So I'm going to U-turn out into my Steelix, and I'm expecting him to maybe go for like an Ice Beam or something on my Steelix in case he wants to go out into that. So yeah, I take a little bit and decide to go out into my Steelix as he goes for the Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse is used to hit Kofag, so not really surprised about that. And I don't really do that much damage to it. So here I'm thinking that he does have a Chople Berry, but he's using Tri-Attack, or he's using Thunderbolt and Dark Pulse, so I don't think that he's running Nasty Plot. So I feel pretty safe going for the Protect here just to get a little bit more leftovers so that I feel a little bit more confident going against the Manectric, because the way that I'm going to be able to beat the Manectric is by whittling it down with Stealth Rock and by a little bit of hits from all of my Pokemon. As he goes out into his Mandibuzz right there, and I'm like, alright, this is cool. I can Toxic this if I want to, or I can just click Protect and not really worry about this at all. The thing that I'm really concerned about the Mandibuzz is if it has Knockoff, because if it has Knockoff, then I'm not getting the leftovers recovery, and he's going to be able to knock off my Assault Vest. And if he is Knockoff plus Steel Wing, then Diancie is not a safe switch, and so nothing on my team really wants to take a knockoff. So he actually switches out and goes out into his Bronzong. I was really worried about him switching out to Ozzy there, but that's really solid because I actually want this matchup because looking at his team, he doesn't really have an answer to my Diancie, and because I do have Crunch on this, I'm going to be able to whittle this thing down, and it doesn't look like he's actually running Stealth Rock on his team unless this is carrying Calm Mind with Stealth Rock. And I'm just going to go for the Crunch, deal a lot of damage to this thing. Dealt around 30% right there. Maybe like 25% after, a little bit less than 25% after the leftovers. So, feeling pretty good there, and I'm at a decent amount of HP, and I'm thinking, like, what does he really have to hit me if he's Calm Mind? There's Flash Cannon, there's Psychic, and it doesn't learn Earth Power. And he could be running HP Fire, but HP Fire is relatively weak in base power. It's basically like a stab attack, and I'm really specially defensive. And I know that he's not running a lot of special attack bulk because he's obviously going to be running max HP because the Crunch did really nothing, and I'm sheer force. So he's going to switch out, and I was thinking about going for Toxic here, but I figured that just the Crunch is the best play. And I know that his item is leftovers here, so that's pretty good. It's not Rocky Helmet, and it's not there was something else that I was concerned about on the Mandibuzz, the item that he could run, but whatever. I don't really remember it here. And here I'm just going to go for the Toxic because, you know what, if I can get this thing Toxic, that's great. I know that the Lantern might possibly carry Heal Bell, but if I can force the Lantern to go for Heal Bell, that's still giving me a little bit of momentum. So he goes for the Taunt there, so that's really interesting. I was definitely worried about a Taunt Mandibuzz because it beats the Kofag one-on-one. Unless it does get burned on the switch, which could definitely be a possibility because he could be fearing me going for Calm Mind repeatedly. And so yeah, this is pretty good. I'm going to actually go out into my Scolipede to, you know, scout out for the Steel Wing, because I don't want to directly switch out into my Manaphy, my Diancie. I don't have a Manaphy. I wish I had a Manaphy. Alright, so he goes for the Foul Play, doesn't really do that much damage. He knows that I'm the defensive Scolipede, and here I think I want to just go for the Spike here to force a Defog so that I can go out to Diancie and scare it away with Moonblast. And I do have HP Dark on my Manaphy as well. Oh my gosh. I have HP Dark on my Diancie. So I'm not really too concerned about the Bronzong as well. So I do go for the Spike, force the Defog, and this is where maybe having Poison Point would work well, but like Poison Point when I have Speed Boost, that's a joke, right? Alright, so the speed rises as I think, yeah, he goes for the taunt, so that's pretty good for me. The Diancie has yet to Mega Evolve, so if he is going to go for Whirlwind, I need to Mega Evolve that immediately so that it can't Whirlwind me or even Status me. One of his other Pokemon might carry Toxic. He has Lantern, he has this Mandibuzz. They could both be carrying Toxic. And here, I'm still going to, you know, scout out a little bit for the Steel Wing. And I go out to Kofag. I know that he's going to want to go for the taunt on this thing. I know 100% he's going to want to go for the taunt on this thing. So I'm going to switch out and go out into my Diancie. I'm playing this really, really safe, but it's very, very meticulous. So he goes for a taunt on the Diancie, and I'm pretty confident that he's going to want to switch out. And if he gets Steel Wing, he's got Steel Wing. His Mandibuzz is going to be really, really low if I do go for the Moonblast, but I'm just going to go for the Hidden Power Dark. He doesn't know if I'm on plus attack nature either. I could be carrying max attack Diamond Storm. I could be rash nature or modest nature with Diancie, and that'll 100% knock out the Mandibuzz, I think, regardless of its spread. So I do go for the Hidden Power Dark, and that does a ton of damage. And this is in Showdown, so I'm not really sure of how much damage that actually did in terms of percentage. And I don't really want to risk my Diancie this early. And he could also just switch out into one of his other Pokemon to take an HP Dark. So I'm thinking that he's either going to want to go out into Azu here to be able to take an HP Dark and scare me away with Aqua Jet. Or he's going to stay in and go for a Gyro Ball or Flash Cannon. So I believe I go out into Kofagrigus. No, I think I go out into Torn. Right now I'm calculating to see how much damage the crunch did to the Bronzong, as well as the HP Dark on the Bronzong. And this Bronzong is really not that big of a problem anymore because the Moonblast plus HP Dark I know 100% is going to be able to knock it out, so not really too concerned about that. As I do switch out, I go out into Han Solo because this handles Azu pretty decently. If I went out to Torn, Torn handles the Bronzong better, but this handles Azu a bit better, as well as like I can Will-O-Wisp the Azu, and it's not really a threat anymore. I can also just go for the Pain Split. He might remove my leftovers with knockoff, but it's the next knockoff is not going to deal that much damage. So he goes out into Lantern here, and I know that Lanterns do carry Toxic, Thunder Wave, and stuff like that, but if he goes for Thunder Wave, then he's not going to be able to status me with Toxic, so that's going to be pretty good for me. And I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to stay in here because I don't really do that much damage to the Lantern. So I'm going to go out into my Celebi, and I'm really hoping that he's not carrying Signal Beam on this Lantern. And even if he is, so be it. I'm going to be able to take it decently well because I'm calm, but I'm not going to be able to knock him out, so I don't know. If he went for Signal Beam on the switch, that would have been huge for him, but he didn't. And here I'm just going to go for the Energy Ball. He goes out to Azu. I'm just like, oh, it's Sap Zipper. So that's actually, I was actually not even expecting this. I should have, because Belly Drum Sap Zipper is a huge problem. Knockoff does not kill me because he's not going to have the boost, but I don't really knock it out with Psychic. I have to use 2 Psychics. But here, obviously you can tell he's a very defensive variant, and I see that he went for Scald, and I'm just so relieved that he went for Scald. I am actually so relieved because he's leftovers, he has Scald, and I'm just so happy. There's really not much that he can do to me. Psychic repeated damage is going to be able to knock him out. If he's utilizing Rest, then that's an opportunity for me to set up or go out into Diancie and get a kill. Because I can actually just, whenever he does go for the Rest, I can actually just click U-turn. And no matter what he switches out into, I'm going to get the momentum because he switches out, U-turn does damage, which is actually pretty big. I was thinking about using Sub-Baton Pass on this Diancie, on this Celebi. These Pixie Pokemon legendaries are just getting in my head, man. So he goes for the Toxic here, and I'm thinking, alright, Toxic. he would have 100% went for knockoff if he had knockoff there, I think. There's no way he would have went for Scald if he had knockoff as well. So I'm thinking, alright, he's not carrying knockoff. So I crossed out knockoff on the list of the moves that it could possibly have. But I still had to keep it in mind because he could be baiting me and it would have been like the best bait in the world. But alright, so I'm going to U-turn. And I'm going to U-turn out into my Tornadus, I believe. I do U-turn out into my Tornadus as he goes for a play rough, and I'm just like, oh no. Because he is, he got the Sap Sipper boost, but I know that he's defensive, so it's not really going to do that much damage. And here I kind of make a misplay, and I think I go for a U-turn. Because he's carrying Scald, Toxic, Play Rough, Protect. Oh shoot. I do know his entire moveset. I didn't write down Play Rough on his moveset. So it wasn't a misplay at all, but in hindsight, it wasn't a misplay. Because I thought it was Aqua Jet later on in the game as his last move, but it was Play Rough now that I'm thinking back on it. So that was actually pretty bad. So here, I U-turn out into my Diancie, and I'm able to get a kill with Moonblast. So that is really, really big. Getting the early lead. A lot of my Pokemon are really, really healthy. Diancie is already Mega Evolved, so it's going to be able to outspeed the Manectric, and I'm going to be able to do a ton of damage to the Manectric. Not going to knock it out, but he has to fear the Earth Power, of course, so Earth Power could definitely knock out the Manectric. So what's his options? He can go out to Bronzong, HP Dark, still does a ton. He can go out to Azu. I can't really do too much damage to me with Scald because he's defensive. He can go out to Lantern, which is a little bit problematic for me, but I do have the Celebi, which is actually pretty healthy, and he didn't go for Signal Beam initially, so I don't think he actually has Signal Beam on his Lantern, but it could. But I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be able to afford to go for Signal Beam on his Lantern if he's expecting me to bring Rain. I mean, I look at his Azu, and I see that it has Scald, Toxic, Protect, so that's obviously a deterrent for Rain as well as Celebi, because there's no reason you run Leftovers on your Azu when it's a pretty big threat, unless you're using it defensively to handle Rain. Pretty obvious, right? So he goes out to Lantern here, and obviously I am fearing the Scald, and I have a few options. I can go out into Torn to take the Scald. I don't really need the attack on my Torn, but I do kind of need the HP. So I'm thinking here for a little bit. He's obviously very, very defensive on his Lantern. I don't think I actually went for an attack on his Lantern just yet. And here I decided I'm going to go out to Torn initially, as he gets a crit there, to scout out for a Signal Beam. Because if he had a Signal Beam, I'm pretty sure he would have went for it right there, because the Celebi switch-in was pretty obvious. So I'm going to go for the U-turn to scout to see if this is actually Assault Vest, because if he's Assault Vest, he's going to handle my Rain a little bit better. As well as the fact that he's not carrying Heal Belt on his Lantern, because if he's Assault Vest, obviously he can't have those moves. So now this is where the game like shifts a little bit, because now he Volt Switches, and now he gets the opportunity to Mega Evolve his Manectric. This is what I was trying to stop the entire game. And unfortunately, he got the opportunity to go out to Manectric, and now he's going to Mega Evolve and outspeed my Celebi. And I cannot take a Signal Beam at this range, so I'm actually going to switch out into Cofagrigus, because he's either going to go for Flamethrower or he's going to go for Signal Beam. And I don't want Celebi to take damage. And he's going to Mega Evolve. This is my go-to answer to Manectric, and I needed to bring Steelix, because even though Steelix is 2-hit KO'd, it stops him from going for Volt Switch repeatedly. And he gets the Overheat and he misses, which is kind of unfortunate for me, because I kind of wanted to go for the Pain Split and deal a ton of damage to whatever he wanted to switch in, but it is what it is. I think he wanted to hit the Overheat as well, but yeah. So Overheat plus the Volt Switch, I think it would have done the similar damage output with the Pain Split recovery. Because all the rest of his Pokemon have really, really high health. So I do go for the Will-O-Wisp here, and because his Lantern, I don't know what item his Lantern has at the moment, because he went for Volt Switch after I went for U-turn. But I do see that he has Leftovers here, so that is really, really good to know. He probably has Heal Bell, because it's not Assault Vest. He has Scald, Volt Switch. Don't really know the other two moves yet, but it could be Thunderbolt, it could be Signal Beam. Which I'm kind of counting out Signal Beam at this point, because he probably wouldn't went for Signal Beam on the Diancie expecting the Celebi to come in instead of going for Scald, I think. So he's gonna go for the heal bell here, as I do go for the calm mind. I go for shadow ball just to do a little bit of damage. Lantern does not have recovery, and I get the special defense drop, which is pretty big because it puts a lot of pressure on the lantern now, and he might opt to go for the volt switch here instead of trying to hit me with repeated skulls. Because this getting lowered is gonna allow Diancie to knock it out with Moonblast. I mean, the Shadow Ball didn't really do too much damage, but Diancie has a lot more special attack than Kofag, and Moonblast, I believe, has a little bit more has more base power than Shadow Ball. So, if I can bring down the Lantern to around 40%, I do think that I should be able to knock it out. So, I'm gonna try to do that. And getting rid of Lantern also allows my Tornadus to be able to beat it one-on-one. And I also believe that I figured out the spread of the Manectric because it did like 50 HP to me with the Volt Switch, and I think that is not modest damage. I think that is timid damage. So that is actually pretty big. I was really worried about modest Manectric going into this game as well. But if he's running modest Manectric, then I believe I said this in my team building analysis of the team. If he's running that spread, then he's not using he's going to be outsped by Scarf Metagross. I don't think he's really going to want that to happen. So here I go for Shadow Ball, deal a little bit of damage to it, and I know he's probably going to go for the Thunderbolt if he has it, so I'm going to go for the Pain Split to heal a little bit of HP and also just deal a little bit more damage to the Manectric. Shadow Ball, of course, was going to do more damage, but if I get up a layer of Spike or Stealth Rock, then the Manectric is in range of Scizors to be able to knock it out. It's obviously in range of Moonblast after the first Shadow Ball, and it's almost in range of Psychic or Energy Ball. I just need to deal a little tiny bit more damage. I know he's going to want to go for the Volt Switch or the Thunderbolt here again, so I'm going to go on to Steelix. And I don't think he can afford to stay in here, so I'm still going to play it relatively safe. I have to go for the Earthquake because if he goes for Flamethrower and I go for Crunch, that's a huge momentum loss for me, so I still got to play it safe, and I have the advantage here with this Porygon being down, and with his Manectric being pretty relatively low. The Kofagris is also paralyzed. I didn't really like that at that point, but I realized that it being paralyzed later on, it means it can't get Scald Burn or can get Toxic, which is going to be pretty big for me. Goes out to Mandibuzz here, and I'm thinking, alright, he doesn't have Steel Wing. He probably would have went for Steel Wing earlier, so I'm going to pull the trigger and go out into my Diancie. And he wouldn't go for Steel Wing here anyway against my Steelix. He'd probably go for Taunt, because I believe I did reveal Toxic earlier, and I think he has to play this game relatively safe as well. But he plays this pretty aggressively, goes for the foul play, and I don't actually know if I'm running zero attack IVs on this, because that still did a ton of damage. Diancie has really, really high attack, but at the same time it still has really, really good defense as well, and that was a resist, so I don't know. I don't know if my Jenner put it at zero. So here is a pretty interesting play. I go for Stealth Rock here because even though he can go out into Bronzong or Azu or Lantern and heal a little bit of leftovers HP, I didn't go for the Moonblast because Moonblast plus HP Dark would have knocked out the Bronzong, like I said earlier on in the battle. But here, this play of Stealth Rock allows me to go on to TornT here and heal with Regen so that I can take on the Manectric later, because I'm Assault Vest, so I'm going to be able to take at least one Thunderbolt at full HP. And that is my screensaver because I was using OBS to record this, and whenever I switch tabs, that's what happens. So this allows TornT to get a little bit of HP back as he goes out into Mandibuzz. So not only do I do 25% to Mandibuzz to force the defog, but I also heal a little bit of HP with my TornT. So at this point, I'm just like, alright, this is really, really good. I deal a little bit of damage to the Mandibuzz. I heal with my TornT, so that's actually really big because that allows me to handle the Lantern a bit better because I can knock it off later on in the game. Not really worried about Volt Switch as much because I'm a lot healthier. Handle the Manectric a bit better because obviously more HP is going to handle it better. He can't Volt Switch on Manectric with Manectric because it's not going to kill. So I'm in a great position right here, and now I'm going to pull the trigger, go for the Moonblast, because I believe I will be able to get a kill here. he goes on to Bronzong, and I'm gonna click Moonblast. And Moonblast, it's not really a roll here. I think it might be close, but I think it's definitely a roll in his favor if it is a roll at all. So I'm not gonna risk that. I'm gonna go for the Hidden Power Dark. As he makes a good play and goes out to Lantern. Good series of plays there. I thought that I was gonna be able to get a kill with my Diancie when I brought it in on the Mana Buzz after a U-turn with Torn, but that is not going to be the case. And like I said, I need to bring the Lantern down to around 40% to be able to knock it out, because that Hidden Power Dark did around 20% to it, I think. So Moonblast is twice as strong. It's a little bit more than twice as strong. So I needed to bring it down to like 40 something percent, because I'm pretty sure that's going to be enough to knock it out. So now I go out to Celebi, and he knows that my Celebi can beat his Azu one-on-one all the time. Like, it has Scald, Toxic, Play Rough, and Protect. I didn't know this at the time. I thought there was still the toss-up of Knockoff or Aqua Jet, because I didn't write down the fact that he had Play Rough. So that was pretty bad for me. And here I believe I am just going to go for the Recover. Just to heal up to full so that I can take on the Manectric a lot better. And I made my play. You turned me on. This is such a good nickname. Shout out to Gator. This is his nickname that he made for Celebi back in Black and White, and I just loved it. And Gator is actually great at nicknaming Pokemon, but it takes a little bit of time for him to do that. And so I go for the Recovery here. And this guy, man, this guy goes, man. He goes for Volt Switch. Pretty risky play there, but I guess if I went for Energy Ball, then he would have been able to knock me out with Signal Beam, so, for Flamethrower. So either way, pretty good, pretty good. So here I'm thinking maybe Psychic or Energy Ball is going to be enough to knock out the Manectric. And I'm looking right now at the base power of Energy Ball. I believe it did get buffed to 90. I think Black and White, it was base 80 power. And I know that Psychic has a 10% chance to lower the special defense, but it really doesn't matter at this point. So he does have Signal Beam, and I was considering actually putting a Tango Berry on this, but Tango Berry is kind of not useful when I'm running when I'm not running Calm Mind. So now I know that he's probably going to go for the he's probably going to go for another Signal Beam or an Overheat here. So I do want to go out into Steelix here to preserve this to be able to take on Azu, because this is actually a great answer to Azu, and I can handle Lantern as well. So definitely going to preserve my Celebi. There's no reason to sack it here, because he still has two water types. So it'll be obviously grass types to be able to take that on really, really well. And this is great. As soon as I set up Stealth Rock, Manectric is dead. As soon as I set up Spikes, Manectric is dead. Torn's U-turn is going to be enough to knock out the Manectric. He cannot bring in Manectric anymore. He cannot bring it all. So he does go for the Overheat here, and it is not going to be enough to knock me out. But I'm counting the Overheats. Overheat only has 8 PP, and that's 2 that he's used so far. So here I'm going to go for Protect, knowing that he's going to want to... Actually, do I go for the Protect? I don't know. I think I do go for the Protect to stall out one more Overheat, because... Yeah, I don't. I just go out to Torn, and he goes for the Overheat, and I know that he's going to want to go for the Volt Switch, because there's no point in switching. I mean, it would be a pretty heads-up move of him to go for the Volts, just raw switch out here, because I could switch out into my Steelix again. So he actually just goes for Volt Switch. I just thought I ate that up because he's at -4 and I'm Assault Vest, so that is actually amazing. And here I'm just going to go for the knockoff, knowing that it's going to be enough to knock him out. And I wanted to knock off the Lantern, and I'm able to knock out the Bronzong. I thought that Diancie knocked out the Bronzong, but yep, that is not going to be the case. He is going to probably... He's going to get a kill here with the Manectric, because the Kofag is not healthy enough to take a hit. So I'm going to go out into Steelix, the Silver Surfer, and let this thing die. But not before I go for Protect to stall out a little bit more Overheat PP. As you see, the timer is going down. I don't really like the fact that there's a 60-minute timer, because it it makes it a way so that people can cheese games away, but like there's got to be a way to stop like an hour and 30-minute long battles. Even though they can still take that long because of the animations and stuff. So here he's just going to go for the overheat, and I'm not going to risk my Torn dying. I can just let this thing die. He has Lantern, Azu, Taunt, Mandibuzz. So I'm just going to let the Steelix die, and I am going to... it's either it's a decision between going out to Torn or going on to Scolipede, because Scolipede can get out of spikes, but Torn can take on the Manectric and go for U-turn or knockoff or whatever. And if he goes out into... The thing is, like, if he... No matter what he goes out into, I'm going to have a great matchup with Diancie or any of my other Pokemon, because the only thing that I don't have a good matchup on is probably going to be the Azumarill. So here I go for the U-turn, and that's not enough damage, I think, for the Diancie to be able to knock it out. But I do still have the Celebi that I can go out into and be able to recover. And if he expects this recover, then he can go out to he can go out to Manectric, and I don't remember how much damage that this is going to do, the Signal Beam, onto my Pokemon. So he goes out to Mandibuzz here, and I do know that with the U-turn damage, Moonblast should be enough to knock out the Mandibuzz here. But like I said, it's really bad because Diancie does not die to a Thunderbolt at the range of HP that it's at, but like I need Diancie to take this on, so I'm in a little bit of a predicament. So here I'm going to U-turn and go out into my Scolipede so that the Diancie doesn't have to take any damage. I'm going to go for Scolipede, go for Spike, force the Defog, and then go out into my Diancie and get a kill. So it's like I said, I'm playing very meticulous. I'm thinking a few turns in ahead so that Diancie gets a safe switch in, so it's able to take a Thunderbolt from Manectric and be able enough to knock it out. And basically, I have a couple ways to beat the Manectric still. Celebi, if it gets another recover off, beats it. Scolipede obviously beats it if I keep it alive, and I need to keep it alive to be able to beat the Manectric, of course. And if I get a Poison Jab Poison on this Mandibuzz, then it's gonna not be able to beat my Kofag one-on-one, I don't think, because he's going to get defense drops and stuff like that, and Foul Play does no damage, and the poison damage, obviously it's not going to rack up like Toxic is, but it's still going to be consistent damage. If I get a knockoff on it, it's going to take 12% per turn. So he does go for the defog here. He probably thinks I'm an idiot because he's like, why is he going out to Dynasty every time you defog? It's not gonna bounce back the hazards. It's not gonna stop the hazards from going up. But I'm just trying to get Diancie to not take damage from the Mandibuzz, and that's exactly what is happening. Also, if I just get rid of Mandibuzz, then Scolipede, I believe, just wins the game because Poison Jab knocks out the Azu, and I just need a little bit of damage off on the Lantern to win. So Scolipede cannot beat this Mandibuzz, but it can beat the rest of his team. So if this thing goes down, then Scolipede also just wins. So Diancie is going to get its second kill here, I believe. He goes out to Manectric, expecting me to go for Stealth Rock. Pretty aggressive play on his part, but I do just go for the Moonblast, and I knock out the Manectric. So that is Manectric gone. Scolipede is less pressure to put in work in this game, even though he still has the Mandibuzz. But he goes out to Azu here, and I'm thinking... I was actually thinking about Aqua Jet, but I really shouldn't have, because 2 Moonblasts is going to be enough to knock it out. But there's also the fact that he still has Skull and he can burn me, and he has Protect, so I switched out. I was actually fearing the Aqua Jet, like I said, but I think this is still the correct play of going out to this because it can take on Nazu really well. I know his entire moveset. Play Rough is going to do 0, Scald is doing 0, Toxic actually literally does nothing, and Protect actually heals me. So he goes for Protect and he's healing me. So he goes for the, I go for the Pain Split, he goes for Protect, and he heals a little bit more HP, but the fact that he's healing more HP means that I'm gaining more HP as well with Pain Split. So Han Solo is really putting in a lot of work thanks to the paralysis. He cannot burn me, and I'm feeling really good about this. I think he might be a little bit tilted here because he did get that paralysis. I do get paralyzed there, and really not too much of a concern. The lower I get the more HP that I'm going to get back. So really, like I said, not a concern at all. And he's just gonna go for Scald, and I think I clicked Will-O-Wisp there just to put a little bit more pressure for him to heal Bell. It was either Will-O-Wisp or Calm Mind. If I clicked Calm Mind, then I could click Will-O-Wisp the next turn, and I believe if I click Calm Mind, he would have went out to Mandibuzz. So he does go out and he does click Scald again. I'm just gonna Pain Split, heal a lot of HP back. I was really disappointed at the amount of HP that I got back though. Like Lantern has like 101 base HP and Kofag has base 50. Even though I am max HP, I'm pretty sure he's running max HP as well on his Lantern. So yep, he is going to repeatedly go for Scald, and here I'm just going to go for the Calm Mind, and basically what this Calm Mind does, it puts a lot of pressure on him to go out to Mandibuzz to be able to beat this, because if I just go for the Shadow Ball here, I'm going to be able to bring this down really, really low, and I'm going to be able to beat this one-on-one, and I believe I'm going to be healing HP eventually against Scald if I get another Calm Mind up. So, it's going to force him to go for the Taunt with the Mandibuzz, so here I'm going to go for the Will-O-Wisp. I had an option of clicking Pain Split to force a Roost, but I decided against that because I didn't know if Moonblast was going to be enough to knock out the Azu. Because like I said, I was still fearing the Aqua Jet. I didn't want to really take any damage with the with my Mon. So here I get the burn on the Mandibuzz, which is pretty big, and I think it is going to force him to go for Heal Belt again, which is awesome because Kofag is going to get a kill here, and it puts a lot of pressure on the Mandibuzz, like I said. So I'm in a really, really solid position right now. I'm in the driver's seat, and Kofag is basically just pulling his pants down and getting ready to do whatever he needs to do. He goes for the heal bell there, and I'm able to knock him out with the Shadow Ball. So Kofag gets a kill, Diancie got a kill, and how did I kill Manectric? Bronzong I killed with Torn. So he goes out into Mandibuzz here, and I'm feeling pretty confident that I can go out into... I think I go out to Diancie here. I go out to Free Rocks. And he goes for Foul Play. Pretty aggressive play on his part. That did 33. And I didn't really count it, but that did 50% with 2 foul plays. So I was thinking that maybe with a crit he was going to be able to knock me out, but I don't really think that was the case. So here I'm just going to go for the Moonblast, and I believe it should be enough to 2-hit KO the Azu. Actually, not with that roll. So I have the Kofag, which beats Azu 100% of the time. And really not worried about this at all. Even if the Kofag was died to this Azu, I still had a I still felt really, really good, because then I would be able to do a little bit of damage to the Azu anyway with the Shadow Ball to put it in Moonblast range. So there's really not much that he can do at this point. The only thing that I was fearing was Foul Play critting me, or if he just had Steel Wing in the back, but like I said, if he had Steel Wing, he would have went for it a lot earlier. And he has Foul Play, Defog, and Taunt. So if he's running Steel Wing without Roost, God bless Gubs. So I could start setting up Calm Minds, but I think the game would take way too long at that point. There's 10 minutes left on the clock, and there's no point in dragging it out that much. Especially when the game is coming to a close. Diancie kills everything with Moonblast. I just need to sack this Pokemon. So maybe I shouldn't actually went for Shadow Ball. Maybe I should have just went for... maybe I shouldn't went for Will-O-Wisp. I should have just went for Shadow Ball. And he messaged me on Discord telling me that he's going for Toxic, so that just to go out to Diancie and kill him. But I wasn't actually on Discord. I wasn't getting anything, any notifications from anywhere, because I was streaming. And people were messaging me on Skype and on Twitter telling me that I was streaming. I didn't get those notifications either. But if I wasn't streaming, then I wouldn't have saved this battle. So this battle would not be uploaded at all if I wasn't streaming. So thank goodness that I accidentally streamed, because there was one point where I was like, holy crap, I don't think I was recording at all. But I was. And here I'm just going to... I believe I go out to TornT here to go for the knockoff to sack it. Yeah, I think I sacked Torn to go for the knockoff, and I know that like I could still very well lose this Minibus if it does have Steel Wing or something like that, or if he gets a crit with foul play. So I'm gonna just go for the knockoff here, and Moonblast plus Poison Jab should be enough to knock him out no matter what. So um, here I'm thinking that you know what, I need to pad stats for my Torn, so I'm just gonna go for the U-turn and sack my Kofag, because Kofag did enough, man. I need a This is my franchise pick, and I don't want this thing to die. And it already got a kill, so you know what? Let me just pad my stats a little bit, have a 1-to-0 kill to death ratio, and go out into my Scolipede, and let this thing die because it's a support mon. It didn't really get a kill, but you know what? It supported the team immensely. It put pressure on the Manectric because it was really low, so Scizors would have knocked it out. But that is it for my first week of the GBA. Really proud of the way that I played. I played it very meticulously, like I said, and deliberately. So hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like, check out Gubs, and really feel bad for Gubs though, because he had some family troubles, and he had to wait like an hour for me to get my Pokemon Gen. But I hope you guys enjoy. Leave a like. Peace.